Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to Breckland Council's Cabinet meeting on Monday the 12th of January 2026. It's 9:30, so we'll formally start today's meeting. Item 1 on the agenda, minutes of the previous meeting held on Monday the 10th of November 2025, contained within pages 4 to 9 of colleagues' agenda pack. Are they a true and accurate record? Agreed. Thank you very much. The special meeting of Cabinet on Monday the 15th of December 2025, contained within pages 10 to 24 of colleagues' agenda pack. Everyone happy with the true and accurate record? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item 2, apologies for absence, please, Teresa.
Thank you, Chairman. We've received apologies from Councillor Webb. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much. Item 3, any urgent business? I've not been made aware of any. Item 4, any declarations of interest? If any members have any declarations of interest pertinent to today's items, please make me aware at those relevant agenda items, or remove yourself from the room as appropriate to do so. Item 5, non-members wishing to address the meeting. Lots of you here today. Great to see you all. And as always, you are all most welcome to speak on any item in today's proceedings. Item 6, Chairman's announcements. I don't have any, and we'll move straight to item 7 of substantive business. Breckland Community Funding applications. We'll start with Councillor Ashby and then Councillor Clausen. So Tristan, please.
Thank you very much, Leader, and good morning to everybody. First of all, I'd like to talk about the Spark Fund, which is a discretionary grant scheme available to eligible groups or organisations wanting to pilot or trial new community activity or support existing provision which is at risk of ending. Since the last meeting, we've provided £500 to Litcham Jubilee Hall. They provide community lunches in a warm space and are currently serving 30 local residents and friends. That currently brings the Spark Fund scheme to £2,500. In terms of the Community Transport Fund, which provides voluntary organisations the ability to apply for a grant of £500 to enable them to provide alternative community transport solutions to address the historical gap in access for transport to residents who would otherwise miss out. Since the last meeting, we've provided £500 to A Little More Kindness in Attleborough and Swatham Methodist Church, both of which is £500. The current total is £4,000. In terms of the match funding, and just to remind everybody, this is to address vulnerability and work with the most disadvantaged members of our communities to improve their life chances, with a focus on domestic abuse, mental health, social isolation and loneliness, and early intervention projects which prevent an escalation into crisis. And since the last meeting at round 3, we've provided £4,945 to Home Start Norfolk, and that's to provide early help, home visiting support for Breckland families with children under 5, offering up to 6 months of weekly volunteer-led support with home management, budgeting, play and community engagement. And the grant will enable the team to support 6 families currently waiting, with referrals coming from a wide range of statutory and community partners. We've provided £5,000 to Love Dereham Limited. Funding will help to continue such services as running the community fridge, companionship clubs, community lunch, emergency food parcels. 20 people a day visit the fridge and companionship group, and 55 people attend the community lunch each month. Norfolk Clubhouse have been awarded £3,350, and that's to continue the twice weekly peer support sessions in Watton for around 20 members with enduring mental health challenges, offering member-led activities and coaching that help build confidence, skills and volunteering pathways. We've provided £5,000 to Norwich City Community Sports Foundation for their programme called Extra Time, which offers weekly low-pack sport and social sessions for people aged 55 and over. The charity will launch it in Thetford to address high inactivity, long-term health issues and loneliness. And finally, another £5,000 to the Offshoot Foundation. The foundation delivered 15 workshops for 24 young people last year and plans to run 24 workshops from this month, and each workshop has a capacity of 20. The sessions give 11 to 18-year-olds the chance to plan, film and edit their own productions, building skills, confidence and teamwork. And just to remind everybody watching that round 4 closes on the 12th of March. Thank you.
Lovely, thanks, Tristan. Any questions or comments in relation to that phenomenal list of activities, but that grassroots support for many organisations across the district? Paul?
Thank you, Sam. And just to confirm, I mean, the list we've just heard, Tristan, is a range of ages, locations, communities, demographics, all the way across the district. I've got a very straightforward question to ask. How many of that funding is statutory in nature? In other words, it's stuff that we are legally required to do. And how much of that funding actually is funding that we choose to provide to those ages, locations, communities and demographics?
Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Hewitt. We are obliged statutorily to provide none of those services and do so due to the way this council is managed and financially led, thanks to Councillor Cowan and his team and the leadership of Breckland Council.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? If not, we'll move on to Councillor Clowes and Paul, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And I'm pleased to provide an update on the ongoing support Breckland Council has been able to offer our local businesses through funding from our allocations of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. We've recently supported 2 businesses with a total of £16,000 to take on vacant high street properties through our Reopen scheme. This scheme enables entrepreneurs to start up or expand their businesses and ensure our towns are thriving by filling empty commercial space. We're delighted to have approved 2 grant applications in Attleborough, Brow and Beauty and Palm Studio Pilates. Our shopfront repair and redecoration scheme continues to be hugely popular, with a further £15,000 awarded to support local businesses and improve the appearance of high streets across the district. The initiative supports the Council's wider ambitions to regenerate market towns and complements the district-wide shopfront design guide. Grants contribute towards small-scale external improvement, and business owners also investing their own funds, enabling works that enhance shopfronts, boost pride of place, and encourage footfall and support local economic growth. Successful applications include Marcus Sibley Carpets in Dereham, the Tapping House Charity Shop in Swaffham, Blake's by Jazz Dereham, Orion Cinema Dereham. We look forward to seeing these businesses benefit from the scheme as new shops open and repair and improvement works are completed. Thank you, Chairman.
Lovely, thanks, Paul. Any questions or comments in relation to the work ongoing with our ECDEV Growth and Investment team? No, Paul? Nope, super. Thank you very much for that. All noted. So we'll move on to item 8, the draft budget, medium-term financial plan and capital strategy. Councillor Phil Cowan to present, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, colleagues. Now, before getting into the detail of this report, I'd like to draw your attention to section 1.2, and in particular the paragraph that reads as follows. There are a number of fundamental reforms which will be introduced through this medium-term plan. The Fair Funding Review and business rates reset from April 2026, alongside local government reorganisation from April 2028. There's more detail in the report on these reforms. These, however, have had a fundamental impact on how this draft budget today has been approached. This council, Breckland Council, your council, prides itself on providing best value for money services to safeguard residents' quality of life and support the district's ongoing prosperity. And you've just heard, actually, from my previous speakers here, some of those particular items that address those points. We have been able to do so through judicial financial management, the efficient utilisation of resources, maximising returns on capital invested, and, most importantly, listening to the needs of those whom we are elected to represent. We've been able to do so whilst maintaining an affordable council tax level, the lowest Band D district in England, and without the need to borrow to do so. Breckland is a debt-free council. This year, I'm able to say that the draft budget before us today continues the path that we have been elected to follow, despite pressures placed upon us by central government. The budget for the year ahead is balanced, and we're able to maintain our position as the lowest Band D district council tax in England. None of the money raised by this council through council tax, fees and charges and other income streams shown in this report is used to service debt from direct borrowing by the council, such as the Public Works Loan Board. It is all used for the benefit of our residents and businesses. So, what are these pressures to which I've been making reference? Government has changed the way it calculates the revenue support grant by, for example, rolling up the various grants, but in doing so has in effect reduced our core spending power. We're required to fund domestic food waste collection from April, but the revenue support grant does not differentiate between the rolled up grants. And whilst our core spending power remains at £19 million, give or take a pound or two, we know that to undertake the food waste collection service will cost an additional £3 million a year. We know that local government reorganisation is scheduled to kick in with the election of a shadow authority in 2027, leading to a new unitary authority commencing in 2028. Thus, we're having to set aside funds to get us to a position whereby this transition can occur seamlessly. And whilst we've set aside £500,000 in this budget to address this aspect of local government reorganisation, indications are that this could cost up to £1 million. And this money must be found from within our own council budget. And this will be replicated across every local government body in Norfolk. Breckland, I remind you, voted to retain the status quo vis-à-vis local governance structure in Norfolk, but this was not an option that was made available to us. The settlement has been set for 3 years, but it isn't clear if this will be index-linked, and in assessing the core spending power, government has assumed that council tax will be raised year on year by the maximum amount allowed without triggering a referendum. When one compares the budget report in 2025, this time last year, the charted Appendix A paints a significantly different picture compared with today. Our retained business rate income, for example, has reduced from almost £8 million last year to £4.5 million as a consequence of the business rate reset. By any measure, these pressures are significant, but we at Breckland have balanced the books for the coming year. We are fortunate that the growth in housing and thus the tax base has contributed to offset some of the reduced funding, but new housing still needs servicing by the council and at a cost that approximates to the increase in council tax receipts. The Fair Funding Review, the long-awaited business rate reset, and the obligation to collect domestic food waste across the district without adequate new burdens funding to support the service has had an impact on our income streams and costs. Team Breckland, however, has pursued a robust programme of efficiencies, combining appropriate AI tools, better use of technology generally, online systems where they're most relevant, whilst recognising that for many in the district, a more analogue approach is best. As a consequence of this strive for efficiency, different ways of working and our enlightened approach to service delivery, whether obligatory or discretionary, we have proposed a balanced budget for 2026-2027. Now, as ever, there's much detail within the report before us today, and either I or the finance team who are with us today will be able to respond to any detail that may be flagged for discussion. The key messages, however, are as follows. The draft budget is balanced for 2 years. There is no borrowing requirement. Breckland is a debt-free council. Council tax Band D is proposed to increase by £4.95, the maximum we're allowed to do so, per year. I stress that, per year. The Band D council tax remains the lowest for a district in England. Colleagues, we have a recommendation before us today that I propose for your consideration, that the draft capital and revenue budget estimates, the draft medium-term financial plan and draft capital strategy are reviewed and feedback provided in preparation for the final budget setting in February 2026. Thank you very much.
Lovely, thanks, Phil. Just look to Rob and Ali if there's anything else you wish to add. No, super. We'll open up to questions, comments from colleagues then, please. If there are any, I've got Helen and then Paul and then the Chairman of Overland Scrutiny, Councillor Clark.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you, Phil, for that explanation of the draft budget. Alison, unfortunately, can't be here today, but she has sent me something that she would like me to read out on her behalf. So I will read as she has written. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cowan. I would like to make it clear to our residents that the increase of £4.95 for a Band D is the whole increase for the whole year, not every week or every month, as some people who have spoken to me think it's per month or week, which is not true. Also, I want to make sure that all our residents understand clearly that when the council rate letter arrives in the post, Breckland Council does not keep all this money. It is shared with Norfolk County Council, town and parish councils and the police authority. Breckland Council is the chosen contact point for collecting the money and distributing it to all these organisations which provide many services to all of us. So often I have been told that we are being paid far too much for just collecting bins, as people think all the money is kept by Breckland Council. We do so much more than that, and if you counted what all the services we provide cost, we offer exceptional value for money. In fact, we should be proud that we are the lowest council tax in England. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam. Phil, congratulations again to you, to Ali and the wider team here in putting together what can only be described as a very successful, balanced budget in unbelievably complex, uncertain geopolitical and even nationally political circumstances. I think at a time when success is often challenged, and let's be clear, is often penalised, we are still the lowest council tax in England. We are still managed in a way that we can do what we must do, but we can also do, as we heard earlier on, we choose to do in order to make our residents, our businesses, and our communities more resilient and better thrived moving forwards. Fully commend the budget, hopefully, and all the very best as you run through the budget process.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I've just got one question at this particular meeting on the draft budget addressed to Councillor Cowan. I suspect that Councillor Borrett will want to respond as well. Picking up on one of the items in the budget which might attract some headlines is the LGR, and you're setting aside a minimum of £500,000. Have you indication of how that might be used and why we need to spend that amount in advance of the next 2 years? Thank you.
Yes, it's an extraordinary amount of money for something we don't want to happen, isn't it? I couldn't agree with you more. As you will recall, this council took a vote and decided unanimously, I think it was, I can't recall the detail now, that actually we would prefer not to reorganise local government as far as Breckland and Breckland's residents are concerned, but we have no choice. And in establishing a new unitary authority of some kind, there is a process that has to be followed to enable all of the governance structures to be put in place. And those are vast and many. I'm not qualified to talk about them, but we do have members and officers in this room who can do so. So I would like to pass that across to Councillor Borrett and probably Alison Chubbuck as well, who's been liaising with the officer corps to establish the exact need for any funding to support local government reorganisation.
Thank you very much. I've indicated I wanted to speak as well, so I will answer the question and then go on to make my point, if I may, Mr. Chairman, if that's all right. So, two things. With regards to local government organisation, As this has been demonstrated where this process has happened elsewhere, the costs associated with the reorganisation of the services that need to be delivered is an upfront cost. The government is not saying that there will be any new money to councils to compensate them for the cost. So the total cost of this is going to have to be met upfront by the existing authorities, who will then cease to exist when the new authorities are formed, which is, well, it is how it is, and there is nothing, unfortunately, that Breckland can do about it, and the Cabinet members also talked about our appetite for this. However, we do have a duty to do the very best we can for the people of Breckland, whatever we feel about what the government's policy is. And the figure is a estimate, and we cannot guarantee that it will be that much money, because obviously that hasn't been done here in Norfolk before. But I think one should not underestimate the degree of turmoil, I think that's the right word, that there will be, that will need to be managed in order to reorganise the way that local government services are delivered in the county. I personally think the estimate, though it's a very big number, is going to be quite challenging in terms of delivering it within that envelope. But it is all the things. All the services have been redesigned, all the staff that have got to be moved, the IT, the buildings, the reviews of staff, the redesign of services, all have got to be paid up front. Now, it is suggested as part of the programme that there will be savings delivered, but that is over many years into the future, and this is an upfront cost. I did also want to just comment on the budget papers that are in front of us today, if I may. And that is, at a time when local government across the country is severely challenged, one must not underestimate what has just been proposed today. And I know it will be debated by the members in full council, but I do think it is an extraordinary achievement that Breckland is still able to deliver something as conservative as this budget, with no debt and no borrowing going forwards. There are very few councils that are able to do this. And the reason that we do this is not because Breckland is uniquely rich or has less costs than other councils. It's because we have managed the council well over many years, and we make more money from our commercial property portfolio than in the past that we have made from council tax. So we still face the same challenges and expenses as other authorities, but we haven't met it from borrowing, and we haven't met it from excessive council tax. That history of good husbandry is at risk with the disappearance of Breckland, which is why I think the members were so keen that Breckland should stand as a beacon for what is possible in local government. And I think that going forward, I do hope that some of the DNA that has driven this council and the decisions this council has made over the last 30 years is transferred into the successor authorities for the people who live in this area, because I think if it was to be lost, I think that would be extremely, extremely sad. So I commend what the Cabinet member has put in front of us today, and I look forward to being able to support it in full council. I will say one further thing. The government has already announced that the money for local government includes the maximum council tax increase that is possible. So when you hear the government minister talking about there is this much money for local government, he has assumed that we will have put our council tax up by the maximum amount. So they've already announced that the money available is this. So I think that we are being challenged by the government to increase council tax by the maximum amount, which really goes to the heart of what is local government. Local government should be local councils making decisions locally about what they need to deliver. And actually, what central government is trying to do is override that by pre-announcing amounts of money when the decisions haven't been made at a local level, which I personally think is outrageous. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. And I'll just invite the Chief Executive to come in on the back of your question, Councillor Clark, in relation to the funding for LGR and that reorganisation work. Maxine, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Clark. It's really important for us at this time and as we're going forward around the funding to make sure we're protecting our current service delivery, build capacity for our staff and actually our members to make sure that everybody is developed going forward into local government reorganisation. And actually all of the councils across the whole of Norfolk will be doing the same. It's really prudent for us to put some money in so that we're building capacity but continuing our current service delivery. Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Clark? Thank you. So we'll move to Councillor Khyber, please, Chairman of Governance and Audit. Robert.
Thank you, Chairman. One of the significant reductions in expenditure is that on temporary accommodation on line 3 of the overall budget. Is that a result of reduced demand or better handling of the whole financing of that by Breckland? Thank you.
I'll ask Councillor Suggett to respond to that. Robert, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the demand is still high. It's not as high a demand as what we were seeing this time last year, but there is still a high demand. As you'll be aware, we've had a transformation piece of work being done where we've been bringing together the housing and the communities team. So the process, the way in which cases are handled, we are changing, and we have been seeing some significant differences for the better. The level of service and support that the residents are getting have been better because of that as well. It's not so firefighting, it's that more preventative stage that we're trying to get in there for. So the way in which we're handling those cases has changed, and it has made some positive differences, both with regards to the budget, but also for the people that we're there to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions in relation to the budget? Yes, Councillor Westman, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a question, please. I'm curious to know a little more about the waste management. I gather that our contract with Serco expires at the end of this coming March. So have we re-signed with Serco, or if not, with whom? For how long and how much will that cost? Some more information requested there, please.
Lovely. Thanks. I'll revert to Councillor Crane and then the Deputy Chief Executive, Rob Walker. Helen.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Westman. Yes, you're quite right. The contract with Serco does end in 2028. Will be in negotiation and talks as time moves on, but nothing is set in stone yet. I can't give you any more detail. I don't know whether Rob can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Lovely. Any other questions? If not, do you want to move those recommendations, please, Councillor Cowan?
I have already read those the recommendation out, so I here move it. Thank you.
Lovely. So the recommendation at point 1, all those in favour? Lovely. Thank you much indeed. That's unanimous. So we'll move on to item 9 then, which is the corporate complaints policy to cover local government and the housing ombudsman requirements. Councillor Sarah Suggett to present, please.
Thank you, Chair. And really apologies. This sounds a little bit technical, the speech I'm about to give out, but it is a bit of a technical thing that we've got to just decide upon this morning. But the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman and Housing Ombudsman Service have introduced a revised complaint handling codes requiring councils and registered providers to adopt best practices for fair, timely and consistent complaint resolution. Breckland Council is now a registered provider and must comply with both codes, prompting the creation of a unified corporate complaints policy that aligns with these standards. Adoption is strongly encouraged to avoid findings of maladministration with the LGSCO enforcement expected from April 2026. The draft policy incorporates key changes and definitions outlined in the codes. The Council has revised its corporate complaints policy to comply with the updated LGSCO and the HOS complaint handling codes. Key changes include clear definitions of complaints versus service requests, enhanced accessibility requirements, and the two-stage complaint process with stricter timescales. The codes also require annual self-assessment, performance reporting, and governance oversight to drive service improvements. The HOS requires the Council to publish the Housing Landlord Complaints and Service Improvement Report, which covers complaints where the Council is the landlord. A similar task will be carried out for all other complaints following the LGSCO refresh of their Code of Conduct. Subject to approval, the new policy and Housing Landlord Complaints Report will be published on the Council's website and apply to all new complaints immediately. Just to be really clear, we do already deal with all complaints and everything what we do have come in a time frame. We're just bringing this all into line with the national time frame, and we obviously do now need to publish it. So it isn't anything out of the ordinary. What we have been doing is just regularising it to bring it back in, or to bring it into line with revised standards. So thank you, Chair.
Lovely, thank you much. Steve or Jill, anything else to add further on that? Lovely, thank you. Questions, comments? I've got Councillor Clark, then Councillor Khyber, please.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Suckett. Just a brief question. Although it's not part of this particular policy, and this obviously relates to our own actual providers that we're registered now, we're a social housing provider. But will there be work going on alongside this with the expanded sort of Renters' Rights Act, etc.? And that's something which one might expect to come to scrutiny at a future date. I'm just thinking of that in the global picture. You know, we obviously have the landlord and tenants forums, etc., and just looking across the whole piece. Thank you.
Yeah, lovely. I'll invite Jill Duffy, our housing manager, to pick up on that point, Councillor Clark.
Thank you for the question. We will be bringing forward a new policy in regards to the Renters' Rights Act and our new enforcement requirements, which should start in May. We'll take it through the process of consultation. It will be pretty much a standard policy that's going to be applied across all councils to make sure that residents know what they can expect from us, but it will be coming forward in the next few months. Thanks.
Thank you. Does this change or inclusion of the compliments, complaints and feedback policy require any changes to the Constitution? And as a subsidiary question to that, in becoming a registered provider of social housing, does that also have any implication on the Constitution? Thank you.
No to both of those points, Councillor Khyber. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Any other questions, comments in relation to this item? No. So if we, Councillor Suggett, if we can move those recommendations then please at item 9.
Thank you. I would like to recommend that the compliments, complaints and feedback policy, corporate and housing landlord services be approved as attached to Appendix A, and that the housing landlord complaints and service improvement report be approved as attached to Appendix B. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely, thank you very much indeed. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. So we'll move on to item 10, which is disposal of car parks to town councils. Councillor Paul Hewitt to present, please.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, members, I'm delighted to introduce this agenda item today outlining our proposals to transfer some of Breckland's owned car parks to our town councils. That said, the report before you today isn't simply about the transfer of car parks. It's about something much bigger, protecting local decision-making, strengthening our market towns and ensuring that Breckland's communities remain in control of the assets that matter to them. We've heard a lot about LGR, and as we move towards local government reorganisation, we all know that the landscape is shifting. Decisions that have always been made here in Breckland could soon be made by a much larger authority with very different priorities. Bill mentioned earlier on that we have a duty to do the best that we can do for our residents, and that is precisely why this proposal is so important. In 2025, we paused the introduction of a parking charge regime necessary for the long-term viability and protection for the council services our community so desperately needed. We recognise that in introducing a new charging regime just before a major structural change in local government and the abolition of the council that introduced that regime could create confusion, inconsistency, and ultimately undermine the very communities that we serve. But the pause did not change our ambition to secure parking provision that is stable, accessible, and rooted in local priorities. The risk we identified was clear. A future unitary authority could adopt a blanket harmonised approach to parking tariffs across Norfolk, an approach that might be efficient on paper, but blinkered to the needs of our market towns. We have taken independent legal and valuation advice. We have explored every option, and at every stage, we have worked collaboratively with our town council partners. The case for disposal, including disposal at undervalue, is strong. It is strategic, and it meets directly the stated aspirations of the communities in the towns in which our car parks are located. By transferring these car parks, we can strengthen local autonomy at a time when local autonomy is under pressure. We can protect free parking where town councils choose to maintain it. We can free up council resources to invest in our priorities, thriving communities, local infrastructure, and smarter working. And crucially, we can prevent the risk of a one-size-fits-all parking model being imposed on our towns. This is about shaping the future of our communities, not waiting for the future to shape them. Every town was invited to choose the option that best suited their specific community need. 3 undertook full public consultation, a clear demonstration of democratic accountability. 4 towns have chosen to take ownership, and Swaffham, after careful consideration, has chosen not to, and that is their democratic right. But where town councils have stepped forward, they have done so with a clear understanding of the responsibilities that they are taking on. They will manage the sites, they will maintain them, and they, not us, not a future unitary council, will make decisions that reflect their local priorities. This is localism in its purest form. Of course, there are risks. A new unitary authority may question the rationale for disposal, or perhaps we may be challenged with the rationale behind disposal at undervalue. But we have been clear, and we have mitigated these risks through a detailed and clear independent valuation, clear, demonstrable evidence of community benefit, and full compliance with the 1972 Local Government Act and the 2003 Local Government Consent Order, which provides for this exact situation. Let's be clear, local accountability means local responsibility for our towns and for us. And we will continue to communicate transparently with our towns and through them, our communities, throughout the process that follows. The report outlines the options that each individual town council has taken so far, based on the range of options and choices they were offered, and reflects the views expressed by the all-member briefing held at the end of last month. Should the decision be approved today, further detailed legal work and discussion will take place with our town councils in the spirit of the openness that has been achieved so far. This may result in some minor changes to the terms of the transfer of an individual contract. However, the overriding ambition and recommendation of the report will remain. Today, Cabinet is being asked to make a strategic choice. Do we empower our towns? Do we protect local control? And do we remove future liabilities of the communities around those towns? Or do we retain ownership and risk a future authority imposing a model that does not reflect the character or the needs of each and every one of our market towns or the wider community of Breckland? The recommendation before you is clear: to agree to approve the disposal of the car parks, including at undervalue where demonstrably justified, and delegate authority to finalise the disposals to me as portfolio holder in consultation with the Car Park Transfers Governance Board. This is the right decision for our communities, the right decision for our towns, and the right decision for the community that currently resides in Breckland. Thank you. I welcome any questions you may have, and Zoe and her team are on hand to answer any other specific questions about the process to date and the process that will follow.
Lovely, thanks, Paul. Any questions, comments in relation to this item here, please? I've got Councillor Clark then.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Hewitt, for your presentation. Obviously, it's opportune time to remind members that this item will be going to the Scrutiny Committee on the 29th of this month. Just one quick factual question, Paul. Looking at the Appendix B with the transfer options and Appendix C Town Council decisions, just as a matter of detail, am I right in my understanding that it's only if a council has chosen option 4 that they then receive a commuted sum from Breckland, you know, for ongoing maintenance, etc.? Obviously, that may be subject to individual heads of terms, etc., and the period for which they're getting that. Thank you.
You are correct, Councillor Clark. You are correct.
Yeah, Councillor Suggett, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to recognise and thank Ralph and his team and the town councils and all the town councils and their team for all the amount of work and effort that's gone into getting to where we've got today. It's been going on for, it feels like forever. Obviously, it's changed course a little bit in the time that we've done this, and from just under a year ago when we started to talk to the town councils, some of the members on those town councils have changed within their own AGMs. Some of the clerks have changed. It's not been without its challenges to get it to where it's been today, but all of the clerks have worked really well with Ralph and his team, getting through the questions, what the members have wanted to know. Ralph and I have attended the town council meetings where any members have been able to ask the questions, get some clarity. It's been a different choice made by all of the councils. I think it just demonstrates the different view that they've taken. It's a really big ask and a really big task for the town councils to take the car parks on, and I think that's just been proved by the amount of questions and conversations and dialogue what's been had. It's really helped with, I think, our relationships with the town councils. It's helped us to build some really good relationships with the town councils. We've all kind of tried to row in the right direction for what's good and the best thing for our communities, even though we've probably had some difference of opinions on some of it somewhere along the lines. But it's been no mean feat to get to where it's got to today, and the towns have worked really well, like I've said, with all of us. And just thank you to Ralph and the team and all the town councils and their team as well for us to be able to get to where we've got today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Borrett, please, and then Councillor Cadell.
Thank you very much. I just really wanted to congratulate Councillor Suggett and Councillor Hewitt on all the hard work that's gone into this. And this is a real case for local democracy. There was a smorgasbord of choices for the town councils to choose, and they could do all or nothing or a bit. The decisions are entirely those of the town councils. I'm really proud that Breckland has been able to put these options before the town councils, and I think it just goes to show how vital and important local democracy is, and I'm really glad that Breckland has been participating in this way. And I wish all of the town councils the best with all of their future proposals. They will sit outside the LGR, and I think they'll have really important roles to play as we go forward. So I absolutely endorse this, and once again, congratulate everybody involved for getting it to this point.
Lovely, thanks, Bill. Tina.
Thank you, Chairman. I too would like to thank the team for getting us where we are today. Speaking on behalf of Watton and what Watton wanted, I thank you all for working so hard and answering all the questions that we kept throwing at you. So I'm really, really pleased. So thank you.
Councillor King, please.
Yes, I'm to a large extent wearing a Dereham Town Council hat for the moment, although I do remember going through all this a couple of years ago as a Breckland councillor, and I have to acknowledge the generous amount of time that's been put into this in a very short time span to get us to this point with a good range of choices to worry about. It did help enormously to be given so much choice. We hadn't anticipated that we would be given that many choices, and it did help enormously. I think things have gone very well. Dereham was one of the towns that did do a consultation with the public, and I'd just like to refer to the results of that. Obviously, when a lot of people are interested, a lot of people will answer and give different answers. On several points as to the charging for the car parks, you got a 60-40 result from people who live in the town who think that people who use the car parks should pay for it, from people who live outside the town who think that the town council should put it on the council tax, and one or two others. The clear picture was everybody thought we should have it, but nobody thought they should be the ones to pay for it. Human nature. But the one statistic that was higher than all the rest, it was something like 72% of all the answers said we want it in local control. How it gets charged for, we are going to sort out if we get them. I hope it will go through. Thank you.
Lovely, thanks so much, Linda. Any other questions, comments in this item? If not, we've had the recommendations presented. Paul, if you just want to move those recommendations at item 10, please.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendations are: 1, to agree for Breckland District Council to dispose of the car parks, including those at an undervalue where there is a clear and demonstrable social, economic or community benefit in accordance with the Secretary of State's General Consent Order, and 2, delegate authority to finalise the terms and conditions of the disposals and complete the transitions to the Executive Member for Property Projects and Procurement in consulting with the Car Park Transfers Governance Board. Move the recommendation, Chair.
Lovely, you've got those two recommendations. All those in favour? Thank you very much, that's unanimous. So we'll move on to item 11 then, which is the Breckland Bridge Joint Venture Business Plan update. And I know Councillor Cowan is vacating the room for this part of the meeting. Councillor Hewitt, just give it a couple of seconds and then the floor is yours. Lovely. Councillor Hewitt, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm delighted that a representative of the Breckland Bridge Board is here, should there be any detailed or technical questions relating to process. Chair, colleagues, this report before you now presents an update to the business plan for Breckland Bridge, the Council's joint venture property development partnership, and seeks approval for a revised vision and operating model for the plan period, which is 2026 through to 2031. It's disappointing, Chair, from the outset that some carefully selected elements of this report have already been published by the local press without any attempt to contact me or this council as to the circumstances involved, out of context and focusing on cost elements only. The BBC has learned the hard way that taking messages out of context, creating news from clickbait rather than reporting it properly, to deliberately incite and inflame emotion has consequences. And maybe that's what our local press was seeking to do. But now this report in its entirety can set out properly the context and the reasons behind the decisions that we're being asked to make today. From the outset, I want to say that as lead portfolio for the Council's property assets, I am immensely proud of what this Council has achieved from being part of the Breckland Bridge Partnership. Thetford would not be where it is today without the support of this Council and of Breckland Bridge. It was Breckland, through the Bridge Partnership, that stepped up to invest in the town where no one else was willing to do so. It was Breckland, through Bridge, that invested massively in the regeneration of Riverside when no private investor nor the County Council wanted to. And I am absolutely clear, as a result of Breckland Bridge, Thetford's investment in hotels, cinemas, shops and restaurants changed forever. A part of that town, meaning people wanted to come and visit rather than avoid it. Of itself, this is something to celebrate. But there is more. Through that investment and partnership, I believe Bridge played a strategic role in attracting new businesses and investment to the town, including the recently announced £20 million through central government. Through Bridge, we created a spark that has allowed Thetford to thrive, to continue to grow, and to succeed, creating a destination of choice for our residents, our businesses, and our visitors. This hasn't just happened in Thetford either. I have attended meetings in Shipton where Bridge representatives met face to face on multiple occasions, taking an active, dedicated, and personal role to ensure the community was listened to and any planned development would address locally identified needs. This is what taking a strategic, entrepreneurial, yet community-led investment decision looks and feels like. That was the purpose and the aspiration behind the Bridge concept. And it's sad that that was the part of the narrative that the EDP failed to report. As we know, Bridge was established over 10 years ago as a joint venture with a clear ambition to use council property assets to deliver development that the private sector could not or would not bring forward whilst generating returns for the taxpayer. Over that period, the partnership has delivered significant outcomes to this council and to our residents. Not just much needed new homes, affordable housing, regeneration projects and commercial development, but over £3.5 million in cash and value returns for this council, our residents, our taxpayers through income, land receipts and value uplift. Indeed, our investment in Thetford continues to generate the substantial and much needed revenues that allow us to provide the services and resources that our residents value and need, especially now. But members will also know that the context in which the partnership operates has fundamentally changed. The local government reorganisation for Norfolk, combined with ongoing volatility in construction and the housing market, means it's no longer appropriate for Breckland Council to plan for new direct development activity over the medium to long term. By no longer appropriate, I mean this: we cannot do it because we are being abolished. This business plan, therefore, represents a strategic reset for the partnership over the plan period because it has to. It proposes a shift away from direct construction-led development towards a more agile, planning-led, disposal-focused model. In practice, this means for Bridge that as long as it can do so, it will focus on securing planning permission, enhancing site values before disposing of them to third-party developers. It must do this rather than undertaking direct construction itself, as Bridge can no longer commit to long-term construction arrangements in the light of the local government reorganisation. Members should note that under the revised model, Bridge will no longer generate surplus income from future direct development activity. And the report before you recommends writing off the historic working capital facilities along with any unpaid Colkirk related loans. I will come back to talking about Colkirk specifically in a while. Breckland Bridge never was, nor was it ever intended to be, a major housing developer with a portfolio of schemes running concurrently, where those schemes could be put on hold or bought back depending on market conditions. Development and funding would roll from one construction to another. Historically, working capital funding rolled from startup activity through a pipeline of schemes such that repayment from housing sales subsequently arising from those schemes could reduce down the working capital facilities. But in the light of the LGR, that development pipeline originally planned during the plan period from 26 to 31 may not be supported by a future unitary council when Breckland itself ceases in 2 years' time. Without future planned income from house sales, the partnership legally cannot continue to support working capital facilities. So they will need to be written off during the 26-31 plan period, the plan period that we are currently reviewing. This is not a decision that has been taken lightly, and it comes with a cost that the EDP have been keen to shout about. But it is considered necessary and prudent to provide clarity, remove legacy constraints, and place the partnership on a clear footing ahead of the LGR. Moreover, this is being financially managed within the prudent underspend that this financial year has presented to us so as not to impact any future budget of this or any future council as a result of that same LGR. This is the most responsible approach, ensuring the partnership is in the best possible state for a new future unitary council to inherit. And I truly hope that a future council, whoever and wherever it will be, will restart the bridge model once again, having seen the clear, demonstrable benefits that it has been providing for our businesses, our residents, and our taxpayers. Importantly, the current development at Colkirk will complete as the final directly delivered construction project, with properties that meet the highest level of specification, sustainability and environmental outcomes as members of this council requested for it to do so the last time the business plan was approved. Not only that, but also the development at Colkirk will continue to include affordable housing, also as members of this council demanded last time the business plan came up for review. At the time, councillors in this place looked to Bridge to be an exemplar of community-led quality and sustainability. And I want to be clear on this point. Colkirk has faced unprecedented challenges, including the insolvency of its contractor and ongoing building inflationary pressures. But Colkirk continues specifically to include the delivery of affordable housing, which remains a key priority for this council and for our communities. I am proud, not embarrassed, I'm proud that as a council, we can build much needed community-focused homes where other builders cannot or will not do so. It is a great shame that as a result of the LGR, this now needs to stop. Overall, Chair, colleagues, the proposed business plan before you now protects the value already created for the Bridge Partnership and for our residents and taxpayers. The plan reduces future financial and delivery risk given the impact of the LGR. The plan ensures that any future authority inherits a well-managed, low-risk proposition while retaining the option to recommence direct development activity should it choose to do so. Chair, the recommendations before members reflect a balanced and a responsible response to a complex and shifting landscape that continues to impact this council, our taxpayers, our residents, and our communities. I commend the report to Cabinet for approval. I and the officers present will be happy to take any questions in terms of the detail of the report, along with the representatives from Bridge.
Lovely, thanks, Paul. Any questions or comments in relation to this item, please? I've got Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Just a brief sort of question, historical, looking backwards as well as going forward. Is the bridge model that we've carried out for some years, is that unique in local government, or are there other examples where this has been replicated or we've adopted other mechanisms that other people have used? Thank you.
The bridge model is unique to us as a joint venture, a 50-50 joint venture where we can share risk. There are other similar models that might be wholly owned entities or directed entities. But we were very keen when Bridge was initially established to have a joint venture model that de-risked both the council and brought in private sector expertise as and when we could use it.
Thank you. Councillor Khyber, please.
Thank you. Looking at the funding structure diagram in Appendix 5, is it the case that Breckland and Land Group are sharing the write-off? Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Lovely. Any further questions or comments on this item? Councillor Borrett.
Well, I think that it was a sterling speech there from Councillor Hewitt, and actually I support all of it. I was there at the birth of Breckland Bridge, and I think that it took a brave decision, but also it just demonstrates, I think, why Breckland is so different and so special. We were prepared to work to deliver fundamental change to the heart of Thetford at a time when nobody else was prepared to step up. Something really did need to be done to put some heart back into the town centre, and I think the delivery of the cinema, which would not have happened had the Breckland members had the foresight to do it, has done. And so the decision to invest millions of pounds of Breckland's money in the heart of Thetford, I think, has delivered change. Now, the legacy of that is that Breckland continues to receive hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of rent every year on the back of owning that development, which continues to benefit the residents going forward. And this just demonstrates, I think, how powerful the model was. I have no hesitation in agreeing the figures, and I think the figure of £500,000 has been talked about this morning, because that actually has directly resulted in the provision of 6 affordable homes. And I think that represents huge value for money to the council taxpayers, because had we not done this, none of those affordable homes, which are now lived in, well, not all of them, because they've not all been finished yet, but when they are, will all be lived in by people, and the people who get first dibs on those homes are people who have strong connections or live in Breckland. So this is an investment in Breckland's residents. If you look at other schemes across Norfolk, and I'm not going to mention the city councils in any detail, but where they have spectacularly failed to deliver value in their schemes, and we can then look at how beautifully and well run the whole Breckland Bridge process has been. I think that demonstrates again how Breckland has delivered differently. We have delivered outcomes that directly benefit our residents, and we've done so in a way that has been financially prudent, but also incredibly efficient. And I absolutely support that. I do hope that in the future, the successor authorities use the knowledge that has been garnered through the process of Breckland Bridge by Breckland to carry on to do good works in their local area, because I do believe that this is a force for good. And it was very nice when we then read the last time we went through the Breckland Bridge was taken to full council, that it had the support of all the parties. This is something that all of the members of Breckland Council have supported over its life, and I hope this isn't the end of it. I do hope it has a future going forwards. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Lovely, thank you. If there are no further questions or comments in relation, okay, yep. Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just say you've heard all the positives about Breckland Bridge. and I was on this council when it was a baby. I missed it, just missed its birth, and it built much needed houses in our rural areas where other developers wouldn't undertake those developments because of obviously profits. And then you think of the Thetford Riverside development, what Thetford would be like without that now, I wouldn't like to say. But when you think of the economy that brought in, that's up their economy, it's brought jobs to Thetford as well. So over the last 10 years, so the benefits outweigh any negatives, and it was a great innovative scheme that was brought in.
Lovely, thanks, Peter. So, Councillor Hewitt, if you'd like to move those recommendations, please.
Thank you, Sam. The recommendations before Cabinet are: 1. Cabinet recommends the Council to approve the new vision and purpose of Breckland Bridge and approve the business plan from 2026 to 2031. 2. Cabinet recommends to approve writing off the working capital loan to Breckland Bridge Limited and any unpaid Colcott scheme loans to Breckland Bridge or its subsidiaries. And 3, to approve the provision of funding to contribute towards the overheads of costs of running Breckland Bridge and its subsidiaries. I move the recommendations, Chair.
Lovely, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. Mr Barnard, could you please get Mr Cowan back in, please? So just while we're waiting for Phil, because the next item to note is under his name. Lovely, thank you. Item 12 then, the Anglia Revenues and Benefits Partnership. This is to note, but Councillor Cowan to present this item, please. Phil.
Thank you very much, Chairman. As members will be aware, Breckland are chairing the Anglia Revenues Partnership Joint Committee this session, which is good news. But I just want to not go through this report in detail, but just refer to a couple of items that are contained within it. And that is to stress the success that ARP has in recovering fraudulent debt. And you'll see from the papers before you, there's some 2.9 million thus far that's been retrieved, which is exceptionally good news for those of us in the partnership who actually do the right thing and pay council tax when we should. And they're also being very successful in their enforcement teams as well, which is good news. We are experiencing a slight hiccup, and I only stress the word slight and hiccup because government are very keen, instead of paying council tax in 10 monthly instalments, everyone should pay in 12. Well, actually, that doesn't really matter at the end of the day. The answer's the same. But what it does do is it does potentially change the income stream month on month when we get money over 12 months instead of 10. So that will work its way out at the end of the day. And the other option, which is being discussed, and you'll see it's a standing item on the agenda now, and we've talked about it earlier, and that's local government reorganisation and devolution. Anglia Revenues Partnership is very well placed to take, dare I say, advantage of changes that might be coming in local governance structures, because ARP is effectively entrenched in all of those areas in Norfolk, which are going to be affected by devolution in particular. And so there are huge opportunities there for economies of scale and efficiencies, and dare I say, maybe some additional revenue as well. So the report, Chairman, is for noting. Anything else, any questions? I'll try and answer them. Thank you.
Lovely, thanks, Phil. Any questions or comments in relation to this? Councillor Khyber, please.
Thanks, Chairman. Phil, this 10 to 12 payments, is that going to be a statutory change or will it be at the taxpayer's choice?
It's discretionary for the taxpayer. I'm back, I think. Most taxpayers actually quite like 10 months because you actually get 2 months free, in essence. I know it's not free, but it actually helps at the time of year that it comes because, of course, it's at the end of the 12-month period. But it is entirely down to the individual as to whether they wish to pay by 12 or 10.
Lovely, thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, that is to duly note, and members have noted. So item 13, date of the next meeting will be on Monday the 9th of February 2026, here at 9:30 in the Angley Room Conference Suite, Elizabeth House in Dereham. I now formally close the meeting.